This man hired by the CIA reveals the mysterious bands surrounding Earth where individuals congregate after physical death, he claims. Robert Monroe, who was hired by the CIA, was a true prisoner in the evolution of human consciousness. In his book, he details his discovery that the Earth is surrounded by bands where individuals congregate after physical death for varying lengths of time based on their individual resonant vibrations and belief systems, is what he claims. Robert Monroe, 1915 to 1995, was a radio executive who researched altered consciousness and founded the Monroe Institute. In 1958, he had a strange experience where he felt vibrations and floated out of his body. He had an out-of-body experience, and despite initial panic, he learned to control it and dedicated his life to studying out-of-body experiences. He developed hemisync technology, using audio patterns to harmonize brain hemispheres, and proved its effectiveness through EEG scans. Monroe's work pioneered the path to tangible, altered states. Robert Monroe is well known for writing 3 books: Journeys Out of the Body, Far Journeys, and Ultimate Journey. He was an important figure in exploring human consciousness. His book, Far Journeys, is especially important for its ideas about the future of humanity. In Far Journeys, Monroe talks about how after people die, they gather in invisible layers or bands around the Earth. How long they stay in these bands depends on their personal beliefs and the energy they give off. These ideas can also be seen in a book called War in Heaven, which discusses how some belief systems control people even after death in these same bands. Monroe discovered about these bands, and these discoveries are important because later he learned something crucial about them, especially related to the time around the year 3000 AD. This future discovery reveals more about what might happen to humans in these bands after death. Monroe found that the Earth is surrounded by several layers like rings that look dark gray or brown. These layers are filled with beings or spirits. Some of these spirits are still connected to living people, while others come from people who have recently passed away. These layers or bands are arranged in order, starting from the closest to Earth and going farther away. The first band, he says, the first group of beings or entities seem to be stuck on old ideas about how to survive and were still tied to the physical reality. From the viewpoint of advanced entities, Monroe was in regular communication with this first band, reflected a massive discordant, undirected through radiation. The first band has several smaller groups within it, he says. The first smaller group was made up of beings who had left their physical bodies, but were still trying to interact with the physical world without success. They didn't seem to know or care about anything beyond their previous physical life. The second sub-band was filled with entities who were not fully in their bodies but were still connected to them. These beings were in and out of body experience, trying to do things they would normally do while awake. From a broader viewpoint, this looked like they suddenly vanished right in the middle of what they were doing as they returned to their physical bodies. The third band, or ring, is made up of beings who have died but still have strong beliefs about what happens after death. This is similar to what was described in War in Heaven, because these beings have different beliefs. The third band is divided into many smaller groups based on those beliefs. For example, if people share the same religious belief, they create a shared reality where they come together in that belief, he says. And this band is perhaps the largest band and is also a very multiplative place where all these same game playing and power struggles that went on in physical embodiment on Earth. This band is also the source of the comment, "There are many mansions in heaven." It's also worthy to note that those who believe that there is one life to live and that nothing congregate at their own resonant level within this band. Monroe describes seeing billions of entities lying in stasis, side by side in rows. Unless you know that consciousness, energy, and intent create the nature of reality, welcome to a long stay in this area within the third band. The fourth sub-band is a place where beings who used to live in the physical world but are now in a different state of existence reside. Even though they know they have left the physical world behind, they still act like they are in it. They have an anything goes attitude, express themselves in strange and unusual ways that mimic the physical world. Monroe illustrated one example of a bizarre manner of expression when he told of coming across a seething, squirming pile of human forms trying to sexually stimulate each other, to no avail since they did not in reality still have a physical body capable of such interaction. But why come to Earth in the first place? According to Monroe, any time-space scenario of which Earth is a whopper has unique aspects which contribute interesting ways to the development of both intelligence and consciousness itself. Some higher level beings would not want to express this kind of environment. Because of this, many beings on different levels don't really understand what love, compassion, and empathy are. Instead, they focus on needing to be obeyed and worshipped, and they are more about control and manipulation. I guess we would call them demon entities. Going to a place where normal non-physical rules don't apply is something they are not willing to do because it would mean giving up on their need for control. When Robert Monroe was taken to a period in his travels to the Earth in the future, around 3000 AD, he was surprised to learn that the deep gray and brown band rings were no longer around the planet. Instead, there was a single flat ring that radiated light of its own accord. This ring is full of signals and communication, but there was no annoying noise. There were no cities or signs of advanced technology on the planet's surface. The air was clean and the planet's environment was healthy again. When Monroe asked his guide about these changes, he was told that the healthy environment was planned, not a result of a disaster following the natural recovery. There were no large groups of people living on the planet, and this was also intentional. The entire planet seemed to be operating at a different frequency or level of existence. Monroe eventually came across entities on the planet that they were non-physical. They communicated without speaking and explained that sometimes they use physical bodies, which they call containers. These containers were created from their thoughts and kept safe in energy cocoons so they would be ready to use whenever needed. These beings had amazing abilities, even when they were in a body. For example, one of them created a piece of fruit out of thin air and gave it to Monroe, which he ate and enjoyed. The beings also told Monroe that he could learn in a special, fast way. They called it compressed learning, where he could understand life from the perspective of any living creature on Earth by connecting his mind to theirs. They could experience what it was like to be any animal or plant and then quickly return to their own form. These beings had moved far beyond the old way of life on Earth, where survival and the need for a physical body was so important. They could even feel that what it was like to be eaten alive, something that's a deep fear for humans, but they could escape it easily without any harm. They did not need to sleep, and whether they were in a body or not, they could get energy from the space around them. Now, this is the interesting part. They told Monroe that entities newly arrived on Earth at that time period first had to experience one human life cycle in a period of time before the changes were made, and then they were allowed to spend time there. Monroe was told that these one-time experiences were going on in the 20th century for some of those destined to return to occupy the dimensional area around Earth in 3000 AD. Those who graduated from the Earth environment in 3000 AD did not return to Earth, they said. They no longer needed to experience Earth and could take on physical forms in lessening degrees of density and radiation pattern until they no longer felt the need to do so on their journey to the infinite growth patterns of consciousness that were developing all the time. Monroe's book, Ultimate Journey, went over some of the same ground from a different angle. It seems that Ultimate Journey was motivated by one underlying belief of Monroe's that it stated concisely within one paragraph, chapter 6. It may help to accept as a belief to be converted into a known that we, as human mind consciousness, have both an individual and species purpose or purposes. for being in the Earth life system, which is not usually an understood part of our physical waking awareness. Conflict arises when the human mind demands an action on the Earth life system self has trouble handling it. Monroe describes the Earth life system as an exquisitely self-adjusted, auto-tuning, self-generating organization of energy, and the entire system is one of polarities, yet each part is interconnected. It is, he said, a food chain predator system. Although it's rarely accepted as such, it may appear chaotic and complex, but it's organized and operates under a few new simple rules. Grow and exist as long as you can, get what you need to exist, maintain your species by reproduction. There are no limitations or conditions in applying these rules. Every participant is a predator, and the process cannot be altered or changed as long as the Earth life system exists. Survival is difficult, if not impossible, without the predatory action, he points out. Well, obviously, this to me sounds very animalistic and not at all Christian. And this is on Hows and Whys by Vicky Verma. Please leave your comments about this, and thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.